Alright. Time for, like, compared to that game, the last game I played, the best game of chess I've ever played, even though it was not very good. I was just struggling to understand the structure in this game a lot. So I was playing this guy, he was like 1600. Yeah, I don't know. I had the white pieces, and I got to do a Catalan. Go me. This is all stuff that I knew. And then, okay, so c6. This was my first big think of the game, because I just remembered some position where if they play knight d7, you play knight d2, and if they play c6, you play knight c3. But I was like, that doesn't even make sense here, but maybe that's the position. And I just kind of went off that. Even though if I play knight c3, if he takes, like, I can't play queen c2, I can't play knight d2. And I was just kind of relying on false memories. So I really shouldn't have done that. I should have just gone with my instinct and played either queen c2 or even knight fd2 maybe? I don't know. But probably knight bd2. And all I knew is that I want to play for the e4 break. So, I don't know. I feel like knight c3 is bad if you just take... I don't know. Okay, I can play knight e5. Never mind. But here... Okay, so here, though, I still can't play queen c2. And now he's changed his decision, so it's like he played knight d7 and I played knight d2. Or something. Do you know what I mean? And so now I feel like I'm all fucked up. Now I feel like if I just proceed with my plan, that he's just gonna take and play b5, and knight e5 isn't good. But I didn't know what to do about it, so I just did it anyway. So I was correct in my thinking that d takes c4 is the correct move. My opponent didn't play it. I thought I would have to play like a4, and I was like, this just doesn't look how it's supposed to look. Something is off here. But my opponent played this very strange move, queen c7. I think it was like the start of it. So queen c7 is just odd because I can play bishop f4 for free now. And he either has to go back or he has to play bishop d6 and give up his good bishop. Which he did, and I was surprised by this. So I'm already just better. But I had a long think here, and in these structures where you have like 2 pawns here and 3 pawns here, you almost never, ever, ever, ever want to play c5 and like relieve the tension, right? But in this position, I thought it was a little bit different because he gave up his dark squared bishop, and I get to play it with a tempo and just have control over the dark squares. So it was a move where I was like, it's either good or it's really bad, but I don't understand why it's bad. So I might as well play it so I can learn something. And it's good, so go me. c5 is a good move. So it does make sense here. And my initial intention with c5 is to play e4. But I kept talking myself out of it because this is another one of those situations where you're trading the square for the square, right? So if I play e4 right away, he gets this tempo on my queen here, and he plays rook d8, and he's gonna get that. And I was like, maybe this wasn't good if I get this backwards pawn and he gets a knight on d5. Maybe what I did was incorrect. So I kind of started to feel like I was wrong with c5, so I didn't play e4. But what I've noticed is as I study more endgames and as I focus more on endgames, I tend to overvalue static advantages or static just positional elements, meaning that I take the pawn structure into account way more than I should, even though I used to not do it at all. So I was like, backwards pawn, not good, basically, was my thought. But bishop's so bad that it don't matter because bishop never getting out, you know? So it's worth it. But I talked myself out of e4 for that reason. And it's the best move. So I was like, I don't know, b4 is probably always useful. Just expand on the queen side. And again, I'm like, I can see like a breakthrough happening in the endgame, and I will have the superior pawn structure, and I will win the endgame, and that's what I was hoping. But then he plays e5, which is his break, right? But I didn't see how I could stop it. The only way I would stop it is e4, and even e4, like, he might be able to play e5 here. Like, even this is nothing for me, because if I take it, it's like, or probably rook e8 first, yeah. And then I'm threatening to take on c5, is what we were saying. And then I don't have a good place to put my queen. I think the computer is saying that I'm stupid and that, like, oh yeah, if e5, there's this, and then yeah, you can't play knight f6 because then you hang your pawn, and if you play g6, you're just making a big weakness in front of your king. So that makes sense. Thanks for the 50 months. D takes e4. You want to play knight takes e4. What? Yeah. But anyway, I don't know. Backwards pawn. So then I started playing like I had made a mistake. And at this point, I actually should still play e4. It's not nearly as good in this position. And I considered it here, but it transposed into the same lines a lot of the time. Like, similar things at least. Like, this is extremely similar. And this is a transposition. So I was like, I'm not playing e4. So I played e3, which is bad. I was kind of worried about e4 because he's just locking the position, and his bishop is just not so bad anymore. And especially if he's pushing my pieces this way, he might actually get an attack. So I was worried about that. But he played rook e8, so I was like, oh, he probably won't play e4. He wants to open this. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just put a rook on e1 too. And then he did play e4, and I was kind of annoyed. I was like, ugh, I wish you wouldn't do that, because I don't like that. But again, I was like, I don't know, I can see things happening over here for me, and the bishop becoming a piece soon again. But knight f8 is a good move, and he's coming in. So this is a thing that's happening, followed by that or that. And it's not very fun, I gotta say. I'm having some problems on the light squares. So I play a4 because I feel like I have no other choice. And he plays knight e6, which I thought was maybe not the best. I thought he should play bishop g4 first, because a reason you play knight f8 is to get out of the way of the bishop. But then you're just stepping in front of it once again, so I thought that was probably not good. And then I realized how strong knight g5 is, so if I do nothing, if I just like do that, knight g5 is extremely strong. And I'm just getting killed on the light squares. And he actually has like a ready-made plan of murdering me. So then I'm like, okay, why can't I play h4? h4 would solve that problem. But the problem with h4 is that he might have g5. And if I take it, it's the same thing but worse. And if I don't take it, he's still opening up my king. So I began to look harder. And because the knight is on e6, now I decided that if g5, I can probably play knight d takes e4, because when you move the g-pawn, the knight on f6 is no longer defended, so you have to recapture everything, and if you recapture again on h4, I take on h4, and I think the 2 pawns plus the bishop and the large space advantage and no weaknesses is worth it. So that's why I played h4. g5 is the best move here, but he did not play it. I don't know, I thought it was interesting, but I'm probably just worse there. He did a worse version, so he played this very strange move. Oops. So he played knight h5. Alright, here's a little lesson here about when to sacrifice pieces and when not to. So there are other things that you can use to evaluate a chess position besides counting material. And the things I do to evaluate a position besides material are, number 1, piece activity is my favorite one usually. Number 2 is king safety, and number 3 is space, and there's other ones, I don't know, but those are like the 3 big ones. Okay, so let's look at this. And you could also argue time. So time is like, okay, you could just say time on the clock, like if you're up on time, but that doesn't really have anything to do with the position. There's also time in chess just having to do with how many legal moves you have and how many your opponent has. And I actually stopped and I tried to do this method that Josh told me about, where you look at how much time you have versus your opponent. So I like kind of briefly counted all my moves versus all my opponent's moves. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, we don't have to count them all individually, but basically, so there's a knight on the rim, meaning his moves are cut in half. The knight is bad there. The bishop is blocked in, and it only has one legal move. This rook only has one legal move. This rook only has 3 legal moves. And all of my pieces have more space, more time. They're better placed, and they're happy. I have a space advantage on this side of the board. And my only weaknesses are these situations on the light squares. So if I play knight d takes e4, not only am I getting rid of every weakness I have, I get 2 pawns for a piece. So we only have to account for that 1 pawn I've lost. And I think that everything we said accounts for the 1 pawn, being that my pieces are better placed and they're happier. I have a space advantage, and I don't have any weaknesses. So that is why knight takes e4 is the best move. And white is a little bit better at this point. It's harder to justify a move like that if the knight is not on h5, and that's why it kind of like struck me that this is the time right now, because the knight's not gonna stay there forever. It's bad right now. This is time. Yeah, I played this. So I played knight takes e4. And another thing is, just the d6 square alone is worth a lot. I don't know. So yeah, let's see. I got this. I got this. I got an outpost for my knight. I have dark square control. I have a really solid pawn chain. I have space on the queen side. All my pieces are happy, and his suck, basically. Anyway. So there you go. There's your little learning experience. So I was only worse for a few moves, and then I am not anymore. And then I kind of just played well for the rest of the game. But yeah, I was having a lot of trouble understanding the structure up until this point. So my opponent played knight f8. I guess, I don't know. I don't really understand the point of it. I think it's just getting the rook room, I think. But I put my knight on d6, rook e6. And again, I continue with best play. So he can take my knight, and he will have 2 pieces for a rook. But again, all his pieces suck. So normally you wouldn't want to have the rook for 2 pieces, but because the pieces suck, white is still better there. So that's why he's not going to take. So I played b5, and I'm just continuing to expand on the queen side and hopefully opening up my bishop with this break. Time and activity correlate highly. Yes, I would say that time is kind of a combination of space and activity. Because, you know, if you have more space, you have more room to move around, more options. Knight f8 is mystifying. I mean, I don't know, it makes a little bit of sense. It's just getting the rook. I mean, it's hard to find a move after knight takes e4. So my opponent captures, and he was hoping that I would just do this and hang my knight, but I did not because I saw that. So I took with the knight, and I don't want to put my knight back on d6 until I know he's not going to take it, because my knight is worth so much more than this rook. It's so much better. So queen e7 felt like the incorrect square to me, just because again, queen d8. He's giving his rook 2 extra moves, but with queen e7, he's just kind of suffocating himself. This is like the gimp suit school of thought, basically. This is why I love gimp suits so much, is because this is how I think. Gimp suits in chess, you know. So if you want to learn how to put your opponent in the gimp suit, these are the things you need to think about. Okay, so I have a lot of pawns, and my pawns would be better if they're farther up the board. So I played e4. And after rook g6, I spent all of my time in this position thinking about knight f4. Because if knight f4 works, it's really, really good. Because, okay, say I do something stupid like rook a2, knight f4, and takes, bishop h3, and I have no way to protect my rook. Now all my pieces are sidelined. F3 doesn't help because then I still lose a queen. So this is something that needs a lot of consideration. So I guess white to play. There's a few good ways to deal with knight f4, but e4 is not sus. e4 is fine, I think. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you have a computer friend or something, but queen e2, knight f4. What? Doesn't that make it worse? You want to do this? I don't know if I want my queen there, though. Blunder spelled d2. Oh, okay. Queen d2. Yeah, that's a way to deal with it. It's fine. It's just a little bit passive. So the way I decided to deal with it was based on calculation. So I decided to play e5. I had to look at knight f4 for a long time first, but e5 was my idea behind e4 in the first place because I want to put the knight on d6 without taking being a problem. And if you take, I just have like a really, really strong pawn here. Thank you for that clip. And then I had a second where I was like, oh my god, I didn't even consider knight takes g3. Thankfully it's bad, but I really should have considered it. It's nothing really. Like I just go here and you have to get out. But it looks scary as hell. For a second, I almost threw up. And then my opponent played knight f4 without much thought. So the point of e5, besides cementing the d6 square control for the knight, is also I am allowing room for my bishop to move out of the danger of the knight. Because this is my best piece, arguably. So I definitely don't want to give it up for a knight, because that's where some of my compensation lies for the piece. So if he wants to not lose his knight, he has to stay on this file, otherwise it's not a pin anymore. So he has to play rook g4. And here there's only one good move. Because remember, this is a serious threat as well. I don't take the knight because I would lose my king. Does that answer your question? Kings are not disposable. Before, oh. Well, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. Be more specific. Ask me a better question. King h2, looks very, very stupid to me, but I haven't decided why yet. I think it's just you're just gonna get fucked, honestly. Bishop h3 is illegal. Oh, before. So Mass Refuge was close. King f1 is the best move. And this takes care of all of our little problems, and black has issues now. So the knight is hanging, the rook is running out of squares, and my king is just totally safe, because worst case I can just run this way. So bishop f5 was another move I considered, but he can just play queen takes h4, which was like, you know. That was the initial idea, actually, behind e5, bishop e4, but then I realized you can play queen takes h4, and I was like, no, I am not doing that. So king f1, and yeah, I mean, find a move. Like, he can almost allow this. Like, I don't know. Like, if he does something like this, I would definitely consider g takes f4. But it looks scary because my king is running out of squares, but this e4 bishop is just saving my life on the light squares here. I probably have to play rook a3 first to cover h3, and then just, like, get out of there. And as soon as, again, I'm just getting attacked like crazy this tournament, but why not queen takes h4 before rook g4? If you play this here, I just take your rook. No, actually, I think that's a good question, though, because this is something to look at. Because queen h3 looks a bit scary, and, like, I don't know, like, maybe this happens to me or something. So, like, if I do this, like, my light squares are weak. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of ways to deal with this. This was something I had to look at. Just king f1, though. I don't know. But anyway. King f1. And yeah, he couldn't find a move here. I don't really understand why the computer likes what it likes. The computer wants to play bishop e6 here, and that's like the only move that somewhat stays in the game. But it's not like you're... I mean, if my queen weren't on c2, I would play that instantly without thought. But I don't really get the point of it. Like, if I just take this, what happens? So I'm only up a pawn here, actually. Yeah, so I definitely don't want to take that. I want to keep his bad pieces on the board because they're suffocating each other. If I just take this knight, he's actually happy. That was an idea I saw in some other position where, like... That's why knight takes g3 scared me so much, because he gets the 2 pawns back for his piece, and then it's equal material, but my king's open. But these pawns are so strong, and my knight is so good, it doesn't matter. Yeah, black queen gets in as well, so that would be incorrect. So I don't know, knight d6. Then a lot of chess has to be played from this position, but it's a stress-inducing position. It's really you'll notice that a lot of the time this is very thematic, especially with the last game. When you're attacking and it feels like your opponent's finding only moves and they're defending, you kind of start to get discouraged, and then they make a retreating move. Because they feel like it's over. So my opponent played knight h5, which is, you know, look at the bad pieces. They're very unhappy and bad. My pieces are very happy and good. So rook a3, and now no nonsense is ever going to happen on my watch. h6 didn't make sense to me, but maybe g5, I guess, was what he wanted. I couldn't tell. I just put my knight back on d6 because now it cannot be messed with because the rook can't come back and he doesn't have any good scores for anything. And it's just crumbling, like he doesn't have much time here. So bishop e6, d5, he missed that, very sad. And then he goes for this, which doesn't make sense, but he had no time. And g4 was a very nice final move because the knight and the bishop are trapped. So this is why we want our pieces to be on good squares, because they're just so much... The side that has a better position, the tactics almost always work out in their favor, and it's because of these factors. So queen takes h4, he tried, but I can just take here. My knight is also, and my rook are both defending the queen. Bishop g4 fails to rook g3, f5, still trying to hang on to it, but I play knight takes f5, and he resigns. Tactics flow from a good position, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, this was a 1600, but I'm sure that, like, most people in chat can use this information, because I don't think everyone in chat is above 1600. And even if they are, they'll want to know how to just crush one. So anyway, that was that game. I didn't understand the structure, but it was... I talked myself out of e4 a few times because I value endgames too much, and I was like, no backwards pawn. No. But I should have just gone for it, because the game was not an endgame yet. I'm starting to think like those people, and I have to not do that, because it's a bad habit. So, anyway.